Trustee Anzara, will you present your candidate for the honorary degree?
Trustee Scott, it is my honor to present Edward J. Markey for the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters.
Edward J. Markey, legislator, leader, Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Edward J. Markey, a son of Malden, you have devoted your life within the halls of the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate to championing the hopes and dreams of American families like your own. Your parents, John and Christina Markey, taught you the values of fairness, integrity, and honest effort. Your dad was a milkman who worked his way up to a management position with the Hood Milk Company, and your mother was senior class president at Girls Catholic High School in Malden before marrying and raising 3 sons. You lived at home through college and funded your education at Boston College and Boston College Law by selling ice cream from a truck over summer breaks. As many have before you and since, you started your political career with Irish Catholic roots, inspired by a U.S. president from Massachusetts who challenged the nation to put the country first. You came of age at a time when social upheaval and unrest, a period of great change in America. Just after a year as a lawyer in private practice, you made your first foray into politics. Your talent, commitment, and hard work set you apart. Successfully, you took your seat as a Democrat representing the 6th Middlesex District in the Massachusetts House of Representatives. 3 years later, you ran for an open seat in Congress. You were only 29. For 37 years, you fought the fights that needed to be fought, and in June 2013, you won a special election to fill the U.S. Senate seat formerly held by John Kerry. Tenacious advocacy and insistence on accountability have been hallmarks of your 41-year career in public service. You've taken up the causes of clean energy and environmental stewardship, nuclear non-proliferation, investor protection, and citizen privacy. The first in your family to earn a college degree, you've spent much of your career championing access to education and have fought to keep student loan rates down and education affordable. Recently, you co-authored the Bank on Students Emergency Loan Refinancing Act, which would allow those with outstanding student loan debt to refinance at a lower interest rate currently offered to new borrowers. Americans' veterans have found you a strong supporter and your efforts on their behalf, including modernization of veteran affairs facilities, expanded job training programs, and increased opportunities for veteran-owned small businesses have made positive differences in their lives. You stood up to British Petroleum when it caused the worst offshore oil spill in American history. As one of the richest international companies ducked responsibility, you investigated and helped expose the true extent of the disaster by prodding BP to put the live video of the oil spill online for all to see. Challenging another major corporation, you have urged reform of the vehicle recall process in the wake of revelations that faulty ignition switches on over 2 million General Motors automobiles are potentially linked to dozens of deadly accidents. You are beholden to no one and vote your conscience. When you broke with your party as a young Massachusetts politician, your Democratic colleagues sought to bring you back in line by throwing you off of the Judiciary Committee and literally moving your desk into the hall. Now, a famous television campaign ad, you stand, arms folded across your chest, in front of a desk in a hallway, and say, "They may tell me where to sit," you say, "but nobody tells me where to stand." for taking a lifetime of stands for the citizens of Massachusetts and for the country. We thank you.
By the power conferred upon the trustees of Salem State University by the Board of Higher Education, it is my pleasure to award you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining.
On behalf of the entire university community, I want to thank both Joanne Patton and Senator Markey for being with us here today and accepting the honorary degrees. You are indeed role models for our graduates and for each and every person in this arena today. Thank you so very much. Would you please join me now in welcoming Dr. Senator Edward Markey, Salem State University 2014 Commencement Speaker.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for that incredible introduction. As President Lyndon Johnson once said, my father would be proud to hear it and my mother would have believed it. So thank you so much for all of those wonderful words, and thank you, Trustee Ansara. Thank you so much. And to Joanne Holbrook Patton, I am honored to share the stage with you this evening. In your eyes, I see the fighting spirit of 5 generations of military service, and you are right. The veterans served us, and after they leave the service, we must serve them, and we can never forget that. We have an obligation to them. To the trustees, faculty, parents, and above all, the graduates of Salem State University, thank you for having me here today. To the leadership and faculty of Salem State, you have taken one of the 10 original teaching colleges and you have taught us how to bring an academic institution to greatness in the 21st century. And it is an incredible achievement. To the parents here today, you must be incredibly proud. You're here to see your children finally spread their wings. But if we're being honest here, Salem State has picked a commencement speaker who lived with his parents in Malden all through undergraduate school and all through law school at home. And I still live in the same house today. So graduates, if you do end up living back at home and your parents ask, when are you leaving? Just remind them that if you can stay just a few more months, you might become a United States Senator someday. So keep that in mind. And look, you have a great United States Senator from Massachusetts who's a graduate of Salem State, John Tierney. And he has yet another family member graduating from Salem State today. So it's a tremendous tradition up here. And moreover, you also have Tom Thibodeau, the coach of the Chicago Bulls. Unlimited potential, this Salem State degree, huh? Unlimited potential, a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. So I stand before you as the first person in my family's history to graduate from college, even if it didn't get me out of the house. My father grew up in Lawrence, in the shadow of the mills. He went to the vocational program at Lawrence High School. He drove a truck for the Hood Mill Company. He worked his way up, but in fact, he delivered milk. And milk used to be delivered to homes. You can ask your parents about it. It did happen at one point. My uncle, my godfather, he worked in the mills for 7 years in Lawrence to save money to attend college. He was 25 years old, penny by penny, dollar by dollar, until he had enough to head off for college. One October Tuesday, in 1929, he He lost it all in the stock market crash, and he returned back to the mills of Lawrence. My mother was president of her high school class in Malden. But then her mother, my grandmother, she died. And my mother had to abandon her college dreams to take care of her younger sisters in an immigrant family. And by the way, we do have to change the immigration laws so that we don't persecute but protect immigrants in this country as well. And that's the way it was back then. The social safety net was one of the girls had to stay home. My father, he said, we're going to keep your mother in the living room here in Malden when she had Alzheimer's. And I decided about 5 or 6 years in that I would interview my mother because she never actually talked about her dreams because she had responsibilities when she was a girl. And so I had a camera and I interviewed her and I said, hey, Ma, did you ever think about going to college? And she said, no, just like this, no. And then I said, hey, Ma, if you had gone to college, what do you think you would have been? And she leaned into the camera just like this and she says, I could have been a good teacher, don't you think, Eddie? I could have gone to Salem State, don't you think, Eddie? Just like that. She was 80 years old and she had never said those words before, huh? So I would have been a Salem State family, huh? But that was what it was like to be a girl in those days. And Salem State has changed for the better over the years. 50 years ago, there weren't that many women. There weren't that many minorities. But today, Salem State University looks like the United States of America, and I congratulate all of you for what this school represents. And like me, many of you probably worked your way through school. Like me, many of you probably commuted so you could help at home. You may have first served your country. You may already have a family of your own. But here's what I know. I am here and you are here because we have been given the opportunities that were beyond the reach of many in past generations. Something good happened to our families in the 20th century so that we can all choose our own paths in the 21st century. Of the 6 billion people on the planet, most of them would trade places with you right now. And not just because you have 3 parties you're going to tonight. They would trade places with you because you are in the upper 1/2 of 1 percentile of all of the most privileged people who have ever lived in the history of the planet. Now that you have a Salem State University degree. You are privileged because of the educational and economic opportunities that are spread out before you around our Commonwealth, around our country, around the entire world. You are privileged because of the knowledge that you gained here, and you can now use. You now have a passport to any place you want to go. You each now have that passport, and it's been punched. Now is when you can lift your gaze to the constellation of possibilities for yourselves, for your families, for your state, for your country. That is who you now are. And as you look around the world, you will see the power of your education. Look at Nigeria, where militants have kidnapped hundreds of girls because they dared to go to school. Or Pakistan, where the Taliban shot and nearly killed Malala on her bus to school. These extremists know when these young women seek education, they don't just change themselves. They transform families and communities and countries and the world. Once knowledge is gained, the pursuit of truth and freedom cannot be denied. That is why these extremists seek to stifle knowledge before it can upend tyranny. That is what happens when terrorists attack us on Marathon Monday in Boston. That is what happens when Mohammed Atta and others hijack planes from Logan Airport to attack America. They are attacking what it is that we believe that everyone, regardless of their religion, regardless of their country, regardless of who they are, is entitled to the full protection and maximization of all of their abilities. On the front of the Boston Public Library, the inscription reads, "The Commonwealth requires the education of the people as the safeguard of order and liberty." Those Nigerian girls, Malala, and all of you are the new global guardians of order and liberty. Yes, even people who are wearing funny hats here at graduation, those people too, are guardians of liberty. Every generation gains more knowledge than the previous one. Your generation knows more than my generation knew. So just think what we learned in the past year. We discovered that the Big Bang really did happen, that the Milky Way galaxy has billions of Earth-like planets, and that Snapchats don't actually disappear. We learned all of this in 1 year. And if knowledge is power, and with power comes responsibility, then your generation has more responsibility than anyone that came before it. Now the question is, what do you do with this responsibility? Martin Luther King said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." But the truth is, almost every case of injustice, there are many people jumping on that arc, forcing it to bend. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to bend the arc of justice so it does apply to everyone, that no one is discriminated against. And that is where you, as highly educated people, have a crucial role to play. People say that you only remember 3 things from a graduation speech. Well, you just graduated from Salem State, so I'm going to give you 4, because you're better than most people. There are ways that you can live up to your responsibilities as citizens of this country, of this world. These are ideas. How could you pay it forward in a way that will also pay off for you? How you can do good and also do well in your own life. 1, make it easier for the next generation to have the same feeling of accomplishment and possibility that you have here today. Many of you are one of the 40 million people who will leave college and have student loans. Student loan debt in America right now is somewhere close to $1 trillion owed by students. Because now that you're finally done lugging your immense books around campus, like the Greek tale of Sisyphus, they've been replaced by the crushing weight of student loan debt, not to mention the chilling prospect of several more years of instant ramen for dinner. That's wrong, and I'm not talking about the ramen. And that's why this month I will fight for a bill to allow you to renegotiate your student loans, to get a lower rate in the same way that people do with their homes and their cars. Student loans should be in that category, because the big dreams of college should never be thwarted by the small print of student loan agreements. We need to support more Pell Grants and other financial assistance. For many students, Pell Grants are a learning lifeline, like work-study jobs or Wikipedia. Pell Grants shouldn't be cut. They should be increased. Some of you have borrowed money at 5%, at 6%, at 8%. Education is the foundation for your future, yet interest rates are higher for student loans than they are if you want to buy a house. That is not right. If we lower the interest rate for borrowing money to go to college, we'll reduce the debt, we'll increase the rate at which the next generation of students can attend and graduate from college. That means more people sitting where you are right now, feeling what you're feeling right now, and it is wrong that interest rates are so high. It is wrong that college costs so much, and we have to make sure that we lower the interest rates, allow you to renegotiate these loans, and that we make it easier for you to realize your dreams. Number 2, protect the planet against the greatest challenge of our time, climate change. From the Industrial Revolution to the Information Revolution, we've been pumping carbon pollution into the atmosphere and trapping heat. That heat is melting ice caps, strengthening storms, and raising sea levels. What's clear now is that the planet is sick and there are no emergency rooms for planets. We may be breaking the planet, but you are the ones who will fix it. You are the green generation. And 50 years from now, we will know whether or not you succeeded in stopping the storms, the seas, and the skies from getting sicker. That is your job. Everyone might not go into the clean tech field, but climate change is an issue that will affect everyone. If you're a nurse, you will see more asthma attacks in the ER. If you're a firefighter, you will see more wildfires from droughts. If you're a businessman, You're going to have a chance to be able to create jobs in the clean energy sector. We now have 5,000 companies with 80,000 clean energy jobs in Massachusetts. We should have a plan to double that in the next 10 years. We're going to need business leaders. We're going to need educated people to all be part of this effort, creating those new jobs. This is an issue that affects all of us, and we must effect change to save the planet. If a kid from Malden, who was a commuter to college, can write laws that dramatically increase the amount of wind and solar and plug-in hybrids and all-electric vehicles in the United States of America, if a kid from Malden can do that, you can do what you want to do with your dreams. You have to be persistent. You have to keep working hard. You can't be discouraged, but you can make a difference. Number 3, don't be afraid to reassess and change course in your life, especially if it will help you follow your passions and professional goals. It's the first law of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. The decision you make in the next 6 months as to where you're going to work is not permanent. You can keep reassessing as you're learning. You may not even remotely be working 20 and 30 years from now with what it is that you think you're going to be doing today. You must keep that flexibility in your own mind. You're learning as you go along. Never has a generation had more opportunities to choose new paths as this one does. That's because in your generation, mobility is the new stability. The beauty of our mobile, connected society is that we can disseminate a new product or a way of doing things faster than ever before. And we can do it from anywhere. We can turn a family business into a franchise with business savvy and Facebook friends. You can keep patients healthier with smartphone apps that track their progress. You can turn retweets into repeat customers. When I was authoring the telecommunications laws in the 1990s, and moving over 200 megahertz to create the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th cell phone license, to move us from analog to digital, to create these devices which people now carry, we now take for granted these devices that weren't even invented yet in 1996 as I'm passing these laws. And now we have an ecosystem of devices, of services, of apps that allow many people here today to be looking down at their device right now and not even looking up at the speaker. And I'm very proud of that law that I passed. It makes that possible, and I'm looking forward to the day when no one ever looks up again and has human interaction with people. They'll just be totally tied to their devices. I'm proud of that change that I've made. You can benefit from this as you're moving forward in your life. Some of you may think that you have a constitutional right to watch a cat video while posting to Facebook and downloading a new app all at the same time. But the idea that the internet should be free and open, what people call net neutrality, it is under attack. From Tahrir Square in Egypt to Independence Square in Kiev, the power of social media to illuminate democratic values and their pursuits has actualized the idealism of the internet. And without a truly open internet, our innovation economy could be closed for business. I need all of you to demand that our government doesn't create an internet of haves and have-nots, of fast lanes and of slow lanes. And in order to have a shot at getting wealthy, we need to stay healthy. And that's the real benefit of living in this state, where 99.8% of all children have health care and 98% of all citizens have health care as well. We are the example of how you can get a good education and have access to health care at the same time. That is something that Massachusetts has to continue to become the leader on. When I was chairman of telecommunications, taking down the telephone and the cable monopolies in 1996, I also built into the Telecommunications Act a requirement that all schools in America get wired, that all classrooms, regardless of income. $35 billion has now been spent as part of that program, but it ensures that poor children have the same access to the internet that rich children do in classrooms all across this country, because we need to continue to ensure a democratization of access to opportunity through healthcare and through education in this country. That's how the 21st century will become better than the 20th century. More fair, more educated, more healthy, more prosperous than anything that we have ever seen in our country in the past. That is where we have to be. And fourth, fight income inequality in our land of plenty. Too many go without. In America today, nearly half of those who grew up in families in the bottom 1/5 of income earners will stay there as adults. The average American household made less in 2012 than they did in 1989. Meanwhile, The top 25 hedge fund managers last year made as much as every single kindergarten teacher in the United States combined. Listen to that. The top 25 hedge fund people, just 25 people, made more money than every single kindergarten teacher in America combined. Who made a greater contribution to America last year? All of those teachers or the hedge fund managers? Huh? We just have to make sure that we continue to fund education, that we continue to ensure that there is an access to it. We need to say that women should make the same pay that men make for doing the exact same work. We need to fight. We need to fight against the inequality that has wedged its way into our democracy. Our government is supposed to be about checks and balances. The Citizens United decision makes democracy more about who is writing the checks than what is in their bank balance. That is wrong. That is undemocratic. And we need a constitutional amendment to repeal Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. So I've given you all several examples of how you can help advance the causes of your generation. But here's the best part. You get to choose. You get to choose. You've made this huge investment. You've been saddled with this handsome debt. But you've punched yourself a ticket to a world of opportunities because you are a Salem State graduate. You get to choose. Some of you will join startup businesses and take it public. Some of you will revolutionize a hospital to save more lives. Some of you will run for office. Some become journalists. Some become educators. You will become whatever it is that you want to become. You get to choose. But know that if you get to choose today because previous generations, your parents, their parents worked to better their own lives and to better the lives of those who are around them. You get to choose because they sacrificed. They fought for equality, for the environment, for human rights, and for universal values like liberty and justice that have animated civilizations for centuries. And you get to choose because you have worked hard, you have accomplished much, and you are Salem State graduates. You get to choose what you will fight for. You get to choose who you will fight for. You are Salem State University graduates, and you will start to change the world today. Thank you all so much for this great honor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Markey, for your impassioned speech, your commitment to advocacy on so many different fronts, and your determination to continue to push and move forward until we find the right paths to the problems that face our environment, our society, so many different ways. And you are such a wonderful role model for our students here today as the first in your family to graduate from college, that indeed you can do anything. As the Senator said, the future is yours to choose. Thank you so very much for being with us today.